Hey there, Cincinnati fans, and welcome back to another episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. It feels like it's been a couple of weeks because it has been a couple of weeks for most of us. I've been out 3 weeks now, I think. Jason hosted a couple weeks ago and is back tonight. Last week we took the night off because our team in Cincinnati had the night off as well. But hey, guys, there's a lot of soccer to talk about. I don't know if you know this. There's Cincinnati played Saturday, but there's a lot of other teams that are playing right now. A couple other tournaments happening. Some right there at TQL Stadium, which we'll talk about later on in the show. This is episode 424 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. My name is Brian Biedenbach. I'll be your host for the night here with Jason Ashcraft and Jose Guerra. Welcome back to the show, guys. Jason, how you doing tonight?
Doing good. The summer of soccer is upon us, and I'm here for it.
That's good because there's going to be a lot of it. There's going to be a lot of it. I am
open wide for some soccer, baby.
I'm wearing my United States jersey that I can barely breathe in because I've grown a little bit since the last time I wore it in honor of their win this last weekend. So there you go. Jose, welcome back to the show, man. Good to have you.
Hey, always glad to be here. Like you said, a lot of soccer going on all over. Lots of things. I couldn't figure out what do I watch this weekend. There was so much to watch, but I'd rather have it that way than say, I got to wait 2 weeks for another soccer game. What is this? What's going on? So this is great. So glad to be back.
Yeah. And you know, though Cincinnati scored only one goal this weekend, you saw about 10 of them at TQL Stadium, which I think we'll talk about later in the show. So you saw a lot of goals, a lot of exciting soccer played around the country this last weekend, which again, we'll get into that as we go tonight. We do have a special guest coming on the show a little bit later. If you saw our social media today, we've been talking about it a little bit. Nick Hagglund will be joining us around the 9:15 hour for the segment there. So make sure you tune in, invite your friends, share the show, and let's get some people in here to hear from the Cincinnati Kid himself later on. Before we get too far into the show, we do want to thank our sponsor, Apollo Home. That FC Cincinnati is finally back in action this last weekend, but chances are your air conditioning has been back in action for a few weeks now. It's a little warm out there. Keep it running at its best with a $29 AC tune-up from Apollo Home. Give them a call, send them a text, or schedule online at apollohome.com. So thanks, Apollo, for sponsoring Cincinnati Soccer Talk and all you do for us here at the show. Get the right logo up there, and we will move on. Let's go with our best and worst, guys. If you're listening, if you're watching, we'd love to hear from you in the chat. Your best and worst, drop them there in the comments. Jose, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think Kevin Denkey's goal, to me, was the best because the build-up too. I mean, just not to get too detailed into the whole build-up to it. Yes, maybe there was a little bit of accidental, somebody didn't run in there as they should, but nonetheless, I think that was the best. And he was a workhorse. I mean, he was all over the field, holding up play, passing. So to me, that was, and I have to mention Orellano. I mean, we do talk about his, other deficiencies on defense, but in the last third, he was very good. He lost a couple of passes there. So what are you doing? But in general, I think that to me was the best. Worst, I'm going to pick on Orellano. Clearly, we've talked about this before. His defensive skills are just not there. He left open spaces, and for whatever reason, the line didn't cover it, or Obi didn't cover whatever you want, or he was just passed. I mean, they would just dribble past him, fake him out. So unfortunately, that continues to be an issue, and this team does not have a killer instinct yet. That still bothers me to no avail. So that's my best and worst.
Yeah. No, at the end of the match, though, like in the second half, Denkey had a number of chances that he created for himself and had the, missed by a mile on the one, another one, keeper made a great save. So we've got the right guy in place, and those, I think 80% of the time fall for him. Should have come away maybe with a hat trick, and then we maybe wouldn't have been talking about this team not having a killer instinct. But we've got the right guy in the right spot that I think those will drop most of the time. Thanks for your best and worst, Jose. Jason.
I'm going to echo Jose with Kevin Denkey. He was my best for the week. Like you said, Brian, he was showing a lot more than just the goal. He was showing his footwork out there, and that's something I think that a lot of us take for granted because he doesn't get a lot of opportunities to show off his skill with the ball. There was one instance where he got around a guy. This might have been in the first half. He was going down the sideline, got around a guy, had the ball taken, but then a lucky bounce went back to him. Then he got around another guy, tried to play it in, and it just didn't come off. But, that's something that I would like to see more of. It's not necessarily his best skill, but it is just one of those things you look at and you're like, wow, this guy, he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Worst, it's more of the same for me. I mean, you're right. If Kevin Denkey had scored another one of his opportunities, we'd probably be having a completely different discussion tonight. But this team is how it is. And I think, we were all kind of people before the break, would we see a style change? Would we see a formation change? Would we see people playing in different positions? No. The answer to that is no. And my dad used to always say, when my dad was a basketball coach, and when I would talk to my dad about people getting subbed in, I'd be like, why aren't they putting this guy in? And he'd look at me and go, Jason, you dance with who brought you. And I think that is Pat Noonan's mantra for this season. You dance with the team that brought you and the style that brought you. And it's going to be, unfortunately, unless something changes, a lot of 1-0 wins that, are not the most pretty things to watch in the world.
Yeah, no doubt. And Jose, you've been saying it all season. That's not sustainable, right? The 1-0 wins, the 1-goal wins doesn't seem sustainable. And it's just more of the same. And we've got another 10 days till we see this team play again. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. My best was Celentano, because your best both were Kevin Denkey. I'm going to go with Roman Celentano. I think he came up big early in the match. There was a save to his right upper corner early in the match that he made. And I will say this, I remember my first show on CST 3 years ago. I had Roman Celentano as my worst, and I got picked on relentlessly. Because I'm watching as a goalkeeper myself, I'm watching his position, his play, and there were some balls in the air that I thought, man, you're the biggest guy out there in the back. When you've got hands to reach over top of everybody, that should be your ball. He's getting aggressive. He's coming out and getting those balls now several times this last week, jumping over guys, punching balls away, catching balls, being aggressive. And I love to see a keeper that's aggressive in the air. So Roman Celentano was my best this week. For my worst, a little caveat here. This is first half only. Second half, things changed. But Evander kind of disappeared, I thought. As I was watching the first half of this match, I heard his name a couple times in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the match. I didn't get to watch the game live, so I'm watching it this afternoon, and I'm about to text in our group chat like, hey, Evander's really good on corners, and he is really good on corners. But then I didn't see where he was most of the match. Floating into space, balls weren't finding him, or he wasn't finding the ball. I don't know what it was. He kind of disappeared. Came alive in the second half, so I'll give him that. But I'd like to hear his name more from commentators in the first half, just because he's getting on the ball and he's making the plays happen. Honorable mention as a best for me is always going to be beating Caleb Porter. As I started watching that game, it didn't click right away that Caleb Porter is their coach still. And when I saw them show him on the sideline, I went, oh, sweet victory. We beat him again. This is fantastic. So anytime we can beat Porter is a win in all sorts of ways in my book. So, hey guys, let's get into, we've got a few best and worst here in the chat. We've got from Rupesh, his best also was Kevin Denkey. Worst is parking the bus in the second half. And I think they did that like they normally do. But again, we did have Kevin Denkey break free a couple times in the box and have opportunities. So never want to see a team just sit back and try and defend a 1-goal lead. I'd like to see them go more after it. Annie Wagner says best Miazga holding it down. Worst was missed goal opportunities, right? We just talked about that a little bit as well. We'd love to see. And again, 80% of the time, I think those goals fall for Kevin Denkey. But they weren't happening. But let's be honest, guys, as we get into this game, this match recap with New England Revolution. This is not the same New England team that Cincinnati faced 10 or 11 weeks ago on April 5th. They came into Cincinnati at that point having one win under their belt. I think they were 1-2-2 or something at that point in the season. It was early on. We're not having a great season. Since then, we're the last team to beat them. April 5th, Cincinnati was the last team to beat New England. They've been on a 9-game unbeaten streak, 5 wins, 4 draws. And Cincinnati goes to New England this week and hands them their next loss. That's a different New England team that has seemed to turn some things around. How did you guys feel going into this match? Did Cincinnati, in your minds, have a chance? Should they have been the obvious winners? Or were you a little nervous going into Foxborough Stadium up there?
I was a little nervous. New England, like you said, was on a hot streak. Their only loss coming in the Open Cup. I think they lost to Chicago in the Open Cup, I believe.
Yeah.
And they're one of the best defenses in all of Major League Soccer. So you combine our offensive anemia with their defensive prowess, and I was a little bit concerned, and I was fully expecting a 1-1 draw, a 0-0 draw coming out of it. So going into the night, I was coming out of the night with 3 points. Spectacular considering, what I was expecting.
Yeah. Jose?
Yeah. I think I can't add anything else other than my nervousness was around this team has had a couple of weeks to rest. Mm-hmm. Are they going to come out really motivated, really intense, or is there going to be some rust there or what? So I didn't know what to expect. And I was a little surprised when I saw Kamara there in the starting lineup, but then I thought, okay, he's a big man. He's a target that could help Denkey up there. So I have to reflect exactly what Jason said and add to that, okay, how are they going to come out of this 2-week rest?
Yeah. I think we saw the starting lineup, right? With Kamara up top with Denkey. And I liked that. I liked seeing another striker up there partnering with him. We'll get into that as we go. We got Nick joining us. We'll get him on screen here in just a moment. So we had the starting lineup. Let's talk through that quickly. Kamara starts with Denkey up top. Orishano switches back to the left side. And we had Engel tucking in as the left center back there, who's been playing the right or the left wing back. He tucks in as the left center back. Flores at right center back next to Miazga, and then Yedlin's back on the right side as the right wing back to give some defensive, just give us some strength there on the right side of the pitch. We did see. We've talked all season about crosses coming in or not coming in or whatever. I loved seeing Orishano there on the left side. He did send a ball in early, I think in the second minute, that looked, I almost, like, I know when, again, I didn't watch it live, but I watched the highlight of the goal, and it was like it was the same play early in the game, and I thought maybe I had the minute wrong of when this happened. So Orishano sending some balls in. Denkey's making his creative runs, getting there. I did like seeing that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But here in just a moment, we want to bring Nick Hagglund on to the program. Let's see here we go. We change our lineup here. Hey.
What's up, guys?
How you doing, Nick? Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I'm doing well.
Good. We've been anticipating having you on the program. I know Justin came out to one of the, I think it was your FCC2 match that you played early on this season. Justin came out, got some clips of you. So we've seen your face on the show earlier in the season. Glad to have you live tonight. So thanks for giving us your time and joining us.
No problem. My family's actually out in California right now, so I've got a free household, so I got time to do whatever. Yeah, I know. I'm bacheloring it right now.
All right. I think the first question we want to ask you is a question that's on everybody's mind, man. How is your rehab and everything like that going? That was a bad injury. We saw you go down. I know you've been working through it, had some surgery. How's all that going now?
Yeah, rehab is it's basically don't do much for 6 weeks. You have to let the rib heal. You can't really lift anything. You can't really do too much. I can do a light bike like 10 minutes to get my lung capacity and trying to get my lungs back. But right now we just test my lung capacity like every week. And then other than that, it's kind of like we have to wait for this rib to heal. It's plated with a titanium plate, but the rib still underneath is broken. And you just for like pain's sake, we don't want to make that worse.
Yeah. So you sent your family to California so you didn't have to like run around and do anything and like do chores or whatever. You could just do what you want and relax.
This is planned in the future, so it kind of like happened perfectly. You know, they had this planned out already. So unfortunately for me, I would have probably went with them, but with this injury, I can't fly for 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No submerging in water, no flying for 6 weeks. We don't want to re-pop the lung.
Yeah.
So, I would have probably went with them, but driving to California from Cincinnati is just not what I
no, you don't want to do that.
I'll take a quiet house for 4 days.
There you
absolutely. Nick, you had the bad injury last season, and then you had to rehab from that. Now you've had this injury again. You know, what was going through your mind in that moment when that happened to you? Like, was it kind of a oh no, not again, or did you not think it was as bad as it actually was?
Well, it's funny on the field. First, as soon as the elbow hits me, I hear a crack, and I'm like, oh no, this is not good. I was just hoping that like maybe my rib hit his elbow and made a weird sound, and I'm just like on the ground and I can't breathe. I just need to like catch my breath or whatever. Got the wind knocked out of me. But as I like tried to get up, I realized like there was serious pain, and as the trainers come out, they're like kind of asking me questions, and they're like, "Do you want the stretcher? Do you want the stretcher?" And I was like, "I've already been stretchered off this field one time. I'm not stretchering again. I'm not taking this stretcher." So then I get up and I'm about to walk off the field like towards the locker room, and the ref yells at me to go off the closest way. So then I have to turn around and walk and give him a little piece of my mind about that. Then I head over, and as I'm walking, like I realize like I really can't breathe at all. I'm like kind of like holding my chest together a little bit, and like the breath is like and like by the time I get to the end line, I'm like, I totally regret this. I'm starting to see stars a little bit. And this is probably one of the longest walks to the locker room in MLS.
Oh, really?
You have to go you go like into the locker room, and then you have to keep winding around the stadium.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
So, yeah, it just kept getting worse.
Nick, the only way I can relate to that is my sophomore year of college. I was playing, and first practice, I went down. I saw my knee separate, and my lower leg hit the ground before my upper leg did. I screamed for a second, didn't feel any pain after I like let it set. And I was like, all right, I'm good. I got up, I got my arm around the trainer, walking off the field. And I looked to my left and I see the coach, and I said, "Coach, give me 5 minutes. I'll be back." And out of this side of my eye, I saw the trainer shaking his head going, And that's when I started seeing stars. That's when I started feeling sick. Like I knew it was something more serious than I thought it was initially, but I never had the, collapsed lung, not able to breathe sort of thing. So that can be a scary moment, I think. I'll say this, when I saw that play happen, I even said something to our guys in our, group chat. I was like, I didn't see anything. Like, how did Nick go down? It just looked like they ran into each other until they showed the replay. And I was like, oh, that's why. Like, he's not a guy that's going to go down from just getting run into and then not get up. And so
for sure, I would never even try to like make that kind of like fake play to like stop a counterattack. I'm just getting up and I'm going back. I'm not.
We know it's not your style. That is not your style.
Not at all. Like if I could get up, I would get up. So it was unfortunate. Like as a soccer player, like looking at it, it's like this is a collision. This happens. Like it's unfortunate. Does he come in hard? Yes, of course. Am I trying to block him? Yes, of course. This is kind of a soccer play. Like Messi, I was like the next Wednesday after the game, Busquets blocks a guy for Messi to get a shot at the top of the box and scores. If the Montreal defender blast Busquets with an elbow. Is it allowed or not allowed? Who knows what.
Right.
It's ultimately like I'm kind of getting in the way of Latte Lath. He doesn't want me to get. He wants to obviously get through me. It's a soccer play, unfortunately.
Yeah. It happens. Those things are unfortunate. So
yeah.
I guess my question then is on that note, like, are there guys in the league that are like the most fun for you to match up with, or the toughest matchups, or are there anyone in the league that you're like, oh man, I hate going up against that guy?
Yeah, I think I really enjoy like going up against the big guys where I get to where they think they're gonna out muscle me and I'm gonna try. It's kind of like a little like cat and mouse game of how things are gonna go. I think the trickier guys are the ones that like quick feet. You're not sure where they're gonna go. Runs off the ball. Like you have to be constantly aware of where they are, and like you can't really get an elbow or an arm into them because they're a little bit shorter than you, and that's probably like hitting them right in the face. You can't use your hands too much. I think those guys are the guys that probably give me the most trouble. But the bigger guys, I feel like I get an opportunity to use my physicality.
So you're not upset you missed the game against Lucho? The next,
no, I am sad. I wanted to see Lucho. Like,
sure.
The way it went down.
Of course.
I would have liked to see him. This is a guy that we won championships with.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a guy that was in the locker room who we battled together. We saw the worst of things and saw the best of things. And so this is a guy I would have liked to see again. And obviously going up against him is kind of a fun challenge. I kind of know what he's gonna do. He kind of knows what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
It's just it's like going up against Brandon. It's just a fun battle, like at the end of the day.
Yeah. He's just that short, shifty guy that you just said, like, I don't know about these guys, but Lucho, you just never know what
sure. I feel like that's where I'm watching the tape, where I go and watch a lot of tape, and I'm trying to see like what's their tendencies, what foot are they going to, what's their like kind of go-to move, or if the ball's coming from the right side, what foot are they going to take it? Ball's coming from the left side, what foot are they going to take the ball there? And kind of like have an idea of what their natural tendency is and what they want to do, and try to be prepared for it. Because these guys that are good, they're going to get there. They're going to get. It's like Iron Robin, his left foot, he's going to get to his left foot. Sometimes it's like maybe you let him get to his left foot, but you're going to be there in a position that's, advantageous to you, rather than trying to be like, you're never going to get to your left foot and they still get there,
That's a good point. And I'm going to kind of go off script because I do want to ask this question because, you're a veteran. You've been in this league for a long time. You've been with FC Cincinnati for a while. And when you bring in new guys to a team and you're getting ready to scout, is that something you're talking about on the pitch? Like, hey, watch this guy in the wing. He likes to go left. He likes to go right. Like, what is the communication like between the guys in the back line during a match?
Yeah, I think like if there's new guys on the team that haven't gone up against certain strikers or certain wingers or whatever, I like to give little tidbits of what I think I've seen. And that I don't want to be in my defender's head, because I want them to feel the game and be confident in what they are doing, but just be like, hey, here's some things that you might want to think about, and ultimately let him make the choice himself, but offer up some advice that I've seen in the past. Say like an attacker like Ure from Philadelphia. He doesn't want it to his feet. He wants to run in behind. He's one of those players that like really wants to use his speed and physicality. And he's fast enough that he's going to get in behind if you're not prepared to have your body shifted and ready to make that run back. So kind of guys that where you see the same tendencies over and over again. You kind of give those little tidbits to new guys on the team.
I'm going to jump in, Jason. I know you had another question. I want to jump in on that note too, because I just wonder, like, as you go up against guys that may be faster, right? Some of these strikers in the league are some of the fastest players in the league. So as you go up against the guys like Alate Lath or someone else that is just a speed demon on the field, right? It's a lot about positioning. And I think that's probably what it came down to in some of the play that we saw, right? You saw him coming, you got in his, from my angle, like watching on TV, like you were just trying to get in his way to stop him from getting to the ball. What is it like? How do you adjust to playing against some of these guys that are as fast as they are and can take the lid off of defenses with just a run straight down the field?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's about positioning, but I also think it's about the pressure that's on the ball. And I think what we try to do a lot is get pressure on the ball, get guys' heads down, because the more they get their heads down, the less time there is for movements. There's less time for someone to make a run, which I think is what we always try to do. Try to get a defender's head down, so it makes it more, it makes it easy the game. But when there's no pressure on the ball and you got a guy that can speed game, it's like you got to give position to him. You got to respect his ability to run past you. And I feel like for me this year, one thing that I think I am probably not feeling as athletic after my ankle injury is that I can't rely on my athleticism, so my positioning has to be great. And I think it's actually helped me like see the game and read the game a little bit, where instead I'm going like right through it and I'm going to try and win this ball, and maybe I don't. I feel like this time I'd be like, okay, I'm going to respect it. I'm going to drop all the way back to the 18 and I'm going to defend you 1v1 and we'll see what happens. And I think sometimes my game has evolved a little bit this year.
How important is the relationship between the guys on the back line to being successful, knowing that a guy like Miazga or Miles Robinson is going to be in the position that you expect him to be in?
Oh, huge. I mean, I'm taking up positions knowing that I have someone in a specific position. You know, if I shift out, say the winger is way on the touch line and I shift out on the touch line, but I still have a striker on my left shoulder, say I'm playing a right center back, and if I don't trust that Matt is going to shift across, then I'm making a huge gap for them to play a ball straight down the gut. You know, I have to trust that if I'm shifting, these guys are going to be shifting with me. And kind of, you know, the same thing. If Miles goes out to the left, I need to shift and cover Matt. Matt has to cover Miles. And knowing that they're going to be there allows me to go get even tighter to the guy I'm trying to get the ball from.
So that kind of raises a question. So, you know, obviously you've talked about the importance of partnerships and how you all play with each other and the system. Is there a particular, let's call it style that Pat Noonan uses when you're doing training sessions, you know, without giving away the secrets or whatnot? Are there things that he does during your training sessions that would maybe surprise us? Because, you know, we see the public Pat Noonan, the press conferences. I mean, are there just some things that happen during training sessions that you may look forward to, and others that you might say, "Oh no, he's going to do this"?
Sorry, could you repeat the question real quick? Because I was really out of battery. I was freaking out.
Yeah, I mean,
I had to change my mic. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. What I was asking is, during training sessions, are there things that Pat Noonan does that you'll say, okay, we're really looking forward to this, and others you say, oh no, he's going to do this, man. Well, what is this? What's going on now? Just part of his style, if you will.
I think I don't ever think like there's a day that I'm like, oh man. I mean, Wednesdays is our day that we do like a lot of transition. And you know you're going to be put in like a block of 3 with maybe one defensive mid in front of you, and you're going to have like 5-6 attackers come at you, and your job is to stop the ball.
Okay.
For me, I'm a defender, so I love that. I love the opportunity to like put my body on the line and whatnot. So, but those days are you're going to be tired. At the end of the day, you kind of like, at the end of every practice, they will do an RPE, which kind of like is the measure of how hard training is. You give a rating 1 through 10, and usually on Wednesdays people give in 7s and 8s rather than the rest of the week is kind of like 4s and 5s.
Okay.
So I'd say that's the day that you feel like you're gonna get the most intensity out of it. But I would say Pat is pretty regimented in his trainings, and that week to week he's trying to see the similar things. I think if you on a Red Bulls week, you might see things closed in a little bit more. It's going to be chaotic, and you'll find, that training looks a little bit like a Red Bulls, game. If we want a more emphasis on saying, our passing patterns, then maybe we'll start practice with some just basic patterns that he wants to see against the defense for the week. So yeah, it depends. A lot of it depends on the opponent that we're coming up against.
Okay, that makes sense.
he has a very he likes a 4-day build. You know, you're going to get your Wednesday hard day. Tuesday is going to be an introduction session where it's going to kind of like intro the things that he wants to see. Thursday's game plan. Fridays just prepare and get going.
And is there anything different that happens when there is a hell is real game? I know it's a game, it's another team, you have to prepare for them, but is there anything different in terms of getting that mentality ready for that game?
Yeah, I think there's just like a little extra, I don't know, there's like a little extra tickle in training that everyone's getting ready for something that's a little, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like almost like butterflies in your stomach, but you're like, I know that this game has more, you know, it's like getting ready for a playoff game, basically.
Yeah.
That this game has a little bit more importance to it than, and I think Pat does a good job of setting the tone early. He's like, I don't want to, you know, this is a good team. Sure. I want you guys to understand that. This is another game, but this is also Columbus. And this is, we are Cincinnati. And this game means more to the fans in this city and to this city than it does than any other game on the regular season. And so he kind of sets the tone that way, and I think the guys feel that. And as we go through training, you can tell that the intensity ramps up a little bit.
Does that game mean a little bit more to you personally than maybe any other player on the squad?
Sure. For sure.
That's the right answer. That's the right answer. That's what
I want to get the best of Columbus no matter what. You know, it's funny because they could have drafted me. They chose not to. They had an opportunity. They didn't draft me.
There's even more. There's even more
reason. I played for the crew U19 and U20 team. There was no team in Cincinnati, so there's no blame here. But I would drive 2 hours every summer, and I played for them. They knew who I was. They knew what I was about, and they decided to not pick me. So I will always hold that against them.
Because you had some.
But, you know, like as a Cincinnati boy, we have a team. Like you know, we got to win this game. For the people in Cincinnati, it's kind of like Xavier UC.
Yeah.
You know, you walk around town a little bit. Like when you win the game, like Cincinnati's blue, you know, not red. And you kind of see each other when you see each other, like say in the off season or other things like that. When you run into each other at players union events or anything like that, when you get the best of the other team, it's kind of like a one up. Or you get to social media, everyone's like, Ohio is orange and blue. I love that. That means a lot to me. You know, I want Ohio to always be orange and blue.
Nick, I got to ask you, I worked in athletics at Xavier when you were a student athlete there And so I remember seeing you play there. When UC dropped their men's soccer program, like, did you feel some kind of way about that since you had that rivalry, the crosstown derby with UC?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I was sad for the guys because it's such a fun game. But also, it kind of felt like Xavier won the real battle. They're like, they couldn't compete anymore. They just gave up. I know that's not the case, but
that's the kind of answer we'd love to hear, though.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think we lost Jose there for a second. His camera feed went out. I think he'll join us here in a second. Nick, I wanted to ask you too, like, you've lived through several of these big injuries, right? I think you joked about your annual, trip to the hospital at this last time. As we watch, right, as fans, and we may be full of it, right? I don't know. We've got the luxury of not training like you guys do and not playing like you guys do and just watching and giving our opinions. But when we see guys like you go down and Matt Miazga go down, especially last season, it seemed to us, we talked a lot last season about leadership in the back that was missing. And as I hear you talk tonight, you talk about, I don't want to give my defenders, a preconceived notion. I want them to react, right? So you talk even as a leader on that back line. When a guy like yourself or Miazga go down or Miles Robinson or whoever it is on that back line, how much is lost in that, like the vocal leadership on the field and maybe the trust and the partnerships that changes and shifts the game?
Yeah, I think when your center backs go down, it's difficult because they see the whole game. They're communicating to everyone in the hard moments, in the good moments. I think getting the right feel for the game beforehand, to give your guys confidence. I feel like attackers are always thinking about trying to score, and they're thinking like it doesn't matter how many mistakes they make, really. They're like just trying to score. And if they get that one, that's awesome. And I think sometimes for other players around the field, they can easily get like frustrated or by mistakes, or if they're not scoring, then they can get frustrated. And I feel like the backbone of the team, the center backs, it's their job to like be like, I'm going to hold this all together as long as possible for us to get this win. And being able to communicate that, encourage each other. Like, I wouldn't say there are attackers that are encouraging, but for the most part, they get mad when they don't score.
Right.
And that's okay. I like that passion. I like that aggression. I like that kind of chutzpah about attackers. Like, they want to put the ball in the back of the net. They're upset that they're not. But for center backs, we're often people that want to encourage the guys to keep their head up, keep going one after one. Like, don't worry if you mess up. We're going to be back here to hold it together. And so when you have people go down and you're missing different people, I feel like sometimes that affects the whole group a little bit in that way.
Yeah. Nick, I know Jose wanted to ask this about your like getting ready for a game. I know some athletes have a very specific thing that they have to do. They have to eat a certain meal, listen to a certain song, wear a certain pair of socks. Do you have like a pre-game ritual that you never steer clear of, or are you more loosey-goosey when it comes to like getting ready for match day?
That's funny. I used to be super like stringent on I need to have rice or I need to have pasta with chicken. It needs to be red sauce. I need to eat at like 10 o'clock breakfast. It needs to be an omelet, and then 2 o'clock have my pregame meal. I had to have a specific like socks on. That was like a lucky pair of socks. And then I had kids and everything went out the window, and I was like, I can't control everything. And honestly, it was a good thing for me because I feel like I was so focused on my superstitions that it would take away from my game. It was only when I had no ability, like I had to take care of my kids and make sure that they're okay and be a dad still. And I realized that, I can not eat chicken at this time. I can eat a Jimmy John's sandwich before and still play good. That's not always a Jimmy John's, but, Jersey Mike's or just a regular sandwich or, pasta and chicken from somewhere else other than a normal place. I feel like that helped me realize like you don't need all these different superstitions. Like, you're a great player. You've been doing this for a while. You can do this without these superstitions, which kind of gives me a little bit more, I don't know, freeing. You feel like you're playing freely. And I feel like that was actually a helpful thing, having kids and realizing you didn't have to do these things. For me, the one thing that I do have that does happen every time, I do feel like I'm going to throw up every game. And throughout the day, this is every game. This is like 250 games. I feel like all day. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I know that Josh Allen has said that he throws up every game, but I get these nerves. I don't know if it's nerves. It's like I'm not really nervous, but there's like it means something to me. Like when I step on the field, like I feel nervous because there's an opportunity that I might lose my spot. There's an opportunity that I could make a mistake, and I want to be ready for that. I could let my team down. I don't want that to happen. And so there's all these little emotions that I feel in the I don't know, during the day. As soon as I get out to warm-ups, that's all gone, disappears. But as the day's going on, the closer I get to going to the stadium, I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Yeah. I think that's encouraging. Hopefully that's encouraging for young athletes to hear that do get nervous, feel that sense of anxiety. Like, why am I nervous for this game? That, it is even in the pro ranks that I've heard other guys talk about that too, right? Like I love that you said it's because it means something to you. You're putting your life on the line every week, game in, game out, for your team. And we appreciate that as fans. Like, we love the way you play, the way you go out, and the way you give yourself for your team. I did want to throw a comment up here talking about being a father. That does change things. We had a comment earlier from our own Justin Blair. He says he speaks for all Cincinnati, saying Nick's the best thing that could happen to this team this year. You're an incredible player, infectious joy, and amazing father and husband. We're all rooting for you. I think we're all behind you, Nick. You mean a lot to this team. You mean a lot to this fan base. You obviously mean a lot to this team, your leadership, the extended contract you got beginning of the season, right? Like, this team wants you to be here. And I think it speaks a lot to your character, your passion for the game, and your leadership of the team. So thank you for all you do for this team, for the fan base. We love watching you. We're rooting for you. And you got a spot here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk anytime you want to come back and join us.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nick, for joining us.
Sorry for the technical glitch. Thank you for being on the
all
show.
right.
See ya.
Thank you. See you guys.
Sorry about that. Not sure what happened there.
Welcome back, Jose. We did get your question in there about pregame rituals. I don't know if you heard that. He did answer that. You have to listen back.
I'll listen
at the end of the show then and hear his answer there. So fun interview. Great guy. We really appreciate Nick joining us for this segment of the show. If we can rewind just for a little bit and talk about the match this last week, we do want to, before we get there, we want to thank our sponsor, Beyond Exercise. They are a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. In fact, they've helped some of our local MLS players like Nick Hagglund, the MLS Next Pro and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. Guys, I feel like we missed an opportunity to have Nick share a little bit about Beyond Exercise and his the time he spent with them in the past. Maybe next time. He knows the door's open. All right, so let's recap the game a little bit this last weekend. We were talking about the starting lineup, Orishano on the left side, sending balls into Denkey. The thing I wanted to ask you guys a little bit about is Kamara and Denkey up top together. What did you see in that pairing? And is it unique to Denkey and Kamara, or when Dado was playing up there earlier in the season, when Santos plays up there, does Denkey play better with a second striker, or is he better as a lone target man?
I think he does. I mean, obviously the two are very different. I mean, Dado is going to have more technical skills, a little faster, nimble. And I've never seen Kamara play until he got here to FCC. What I've seen of him, though, he holds up the ball really well. I mean, he really muscles his way into a play. He attracts attention. And that frees up Denkey. And I think Dado does similar things of attracting play, but in a different way. So I think Denkey plays better when he's got a second striker up there. Yeah. And if it's Kamara, great. If it's Valenzuela, that's great too. And, if we ever get Kubo back, maybe it's Kubo. So I think, yes, the long answer, it's a long answer, but short answer is yes. I think he plays better with a second striker up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing I'd say about Denkey is, and maybe we mentioned it early in the show too, but I've been saying this since I saw his highlights when Cincinnati announced his signing. Like, every highlight I saw of the goals that he was scoring were one-touch tap-ins off of low-driven crosses coming across the box. He has a way of finding those balls. We saw it in the second minute when that I mentioned earlier that Orishano sent in. There was a corner that Evander sent in, and though he didn't get to it, he muscled his guy into it. It hit his defender in the back and forced the keeper to make a save. He had a way of getting there. And then later in the first half, the way he scored that ball coming off the cross from Orishano, he excels. I think being able to be creative with his runs into the box. It reminds me a little bit of Brandon Vasquez, that as a sole target player, he was good, but if he had another guy to take up some space and give him space to run, to make a fading run to the back post and then darting to the near post, that's when Brandon Vasquez excelled. And I think we'll see that more out of Denkey as the season goes, if we can get some guys that can drive a ball across there.
Like when he had Brenner. I mean, we had Brenner there. These were two guys there. And Brenner would attract players, which would free up Vasquez and vice versa. So that worked really well.
Yeah. You mentioned like accurate crosses into the box, kind of low crosses, and Luka, I think, was the best guy on the team on Saturday at doing that.
Yep,
But you look at it, he only had 4 of them. And there really wasn't anything coming from the right side in the match either.
Right.
And I think that's one of the areas that FC Cincinnati they need to improve upon in order to be able to feed Kevin Denkey, is to get more crosses low and at his feet, because like you said, he's really good at that last final tap in. He doesn't need to do 2 or 3 touches. He's got a really good touch on the ball that he can to move off of.
Even if a ball's up over his head and he has to do a backflip to kick it, he's got a way to get there. Yeah, he's capable there. And that ball came from the right side off the foot of Luca Orishano. So I think we're seeing a role for this guy to play. I don't think it's the role that he wants to play, which may be a point I'll make later in the show as we talk about adjustments in the second half of the season. Were you guys disappointed not to see, I know good to see Corey Baird back out on the field, but not to see Dotto come out after the season he's been having seemingly? Is this an extended rest for him, or was there something else? I don't want to speculate too much. I'll just say I was disappointed not to see Dotto out on the field this week.
I think Pat Noonan has made some comments about Dotto and his work ethic or something. There's something that Dotto is doing that Pat Noonan thinks Dotto needs to improve upon. And I feel like maybe this was a message sending moment to Dotto, because if you look at his play on the pitch, in my opinion, from what we see just as spectators, he deserves to be on the pitch more.
Agree.
Obviously, we're not in training. Obviously, there's something there that I think Pat Noonan wants to see Dotto improve upon.
Yeah. It's hard to say what's happening behind the scenes and speculate there. I'd love to see that guy back out on the field to prove my point that this is his breakout season. I mean, if for no other reason, just to prove me right. That's why I would like to see him.
I mean, he has shown, and more consistently this year, that he can perform and he can contribute. I mean, last year there were flashes because he didn't have enough minutes. This year, as he's gotten more and more minutes, he has shown that he has the skills. Now, what's happening behind the scenes, as you said, we can't speculate, but there's something going on that he's not being given the time.
Yeah. There's more of this game we could talk about. We are getting close to the 10 o'clock hour. I do want to transition a little bit to, this was our Cincinnati's first match to start the second half of the season. We put out some preseason predictions, where we thought Cincinnati would finish. And our team at Cincinnati Soccer Talk just put together another great roundtable article. If you missed it, go check it out at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. You'll just search for roundtable. You'll see this mid-season buy or sell. A lot of our guys, I missed the deadline, so I didn't get mine in. I'll share a little bit tonight. But a lot of our guys had a chance to buy or sell their preseason prediction. Some of those changed, and some of those were right on the money. I said Cincinnati was going to finish here. I still think that here midseason. So I want to throw the question open. I'll start with you, Jose, and we'll just bounce off each other here a little bit. Yeah. What's your assessment of this team here midseason to start the second half? And then what adjustments do you think need to be made for this team to excel in the second part of the season?
Well, if I had to pick a word, it's inconsistent and underperforming. The roster on paper is one of the best in MLS, and yet it is not performing up to our expectations. And maybe our expectations are too high. So I picked them to finish fourth, by the way, at the end of the season. And I'm still picking them to finish fourth because, I mean, I'll just quickly down the line. I mean, the back line is not looking as elite as we thought it would be. The midfield is okay. It's not great, but, it's doing its job. And until those big three up there, Orellano, Denkey, and Evander really start clicking, we're going to start seeing more and more of these 1-0, 2-1s, or maybe even losses because it's not sustainable. So adjustments, and I'm copying on this one. This is not my idea because we've heard it from somebody else on our staff, right? Go to a back four. Put Orellano up there on the left. Put maybe if it's
Dotto.
Maybe Dado, maybe Camara, put him in Denkey, keep Evander, Buka. I mean, Buka's been a revelation, quite frankly. I mean, he's kind of a little engine out there, along with Obi. But this insistence on the three center backs with two wing backs, which we know is not working. Okay, Orellana worked a little bit better this time, but his defensive lapses were quite obvious again. But if we are to make a deep run in the playoffs, I'm not even thinking about MLS Cup or Supporter Shield. They got to make those adjustments in the back, or wait for the transfer window and then do some acquisitions. But they're going to have to get rid of somebody or somebodies to make room for salary cap. That's just kind of my overall assessment.
My question on that, though, Jose, is I wonder how much this is other teams making adjustments to Cincinnati's style of play. And here's where I'm coming from. Early in the season, we had no idea what this team was going to look like. We relied on, or they relied on, Lucho Acosta and Lucho Acosta only to be the playmaker in seasons past. And so we talked, that's not the number 10 Evander is. He's going to be a guy that's going to hold his position. He's going to make plays from there. We're going to need streaky wingers. We haven't seen a whole lot of that. But if we go back to the beginning of last season, we lost Barreal, we lost some guys, and we look at this and go, this team's not going to be as successful as they were the year before. They overperformed, at least our expectations, with a guy like Orellana coming in that we didn't know, who just excelled and was an MLS All-Star, right?
Yeah.
This year, he's having a bit of a sophomore slump. He hits the post this week, still doesn't get a ball in the back of the net.
I know.
Maybe it's guys that didn't know Orellana, his speed. He could blow by anybody last year. He still can, but teams are adjusting to him now. They're adjusting and forcing him one direction, shutting him down a little bit more than they were last year. So I'm wondering if Cincinnati has settled into a style of play that now teams know what to expect versus last year. Who knows what Lucho's going to do? His teammates didn't even know what Lucho was going to do, but he's the guy that created.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. There have been adjustments, and because we don't have a Lucho, now we have to depend on our wings, and we know that we're not being effective on the wings. So they're going to shut that down, going to force us to go through the middle, and they clog up the middle, and there's the insipid lack of scoring. But I also think, I think you're right. Teams have made adjustments. But I also think, again, that front three is not yet clicking. If they were, they would figure out a way of working through those adjustments. In the back line, once again, like last year, injuries, call-ups. So we have a patched-up back line again. So I throw in all of that into the mixer and I say, okay, a back line is not looking as good as we thought it would be. A midfield, that's doing its job, and not great, not spectacular, because we don't have a Lucho in there. And the wings that are still not performing, throw in the adjustments that the teams have made. I'm thinking, unless we make something in the back, we change from a 5 to a 4 and then do something else in the midfield on the wings, I just don't see how we'll make a deep run into the playoffs. And I'm still sticking to my 4th place finish, by the way, because if they continue playing in the way they are, they're going to catch up to us. Columbus is going to catch up to us. Miami's going to catch up to us. And we got some tough games coming up here soon.
Yeah.
That's when we're going to exert our dominance in these teams. We're just holding back and we're waiting. Jason, Jose keeps mentioning this front three. That front three is not quite the front three anymore because Orellana is rotated back out. We've got another third guy that is alternating in there with Santos or Dado or Kamara now. Is it really the front three that need to gel, or is it Evander and Denkey that we're waiting to get on the same page?
I think for me, it's Evander kicking it into a higher gear. Working I'm a schlub that's out of shape. I can never play professional soccer, but for me, we can't have matches like we had this week where Evander was completely absent from anything that's going on if we want to make any sort of impact in the playoffs. And I think as we went into this season, I picked us third. I'm going to stick to that. I'm kind of like Jose. I didn't think we were going to win the Supporters Shield. But going into the season, I think a lot of us had this really high bar set that we thought, oh yeah, Kevin Denkey and Evander are going to be, going for the golden boot and the MVP together. And it's going to be, just a crazy offensive year for FC Cincinnati. And we're not seeing that. And I think part of that is Evander just hasn't really tried. and that was one of his knocks coming in, was like some of the punditry said he is the best player in the league when he tries. And it's a marathon of a season. Maybe he just had an off night. Another thing that I think we need to kind of keep in mind is there is the rumor out there about Orishano and a release clause and some teams. I think, is it Cruz Azul that might have been looking?
Yeah. Cruz Azul, yeah.
So there could be a huge move during the summer transfer window that takes away one of these key pieces. I don't know, but you never know. We've seen like big moves happen with this team and with MLS in general mid-season. So if we were to move on from
you're talking about Giacchini, right?
Yeah, Giacchini. But I mean, we were trying to make big moves last year and it didn't work out.
It didn't work.
Yeah. That could work out this year. I don't know. But I think that's something that could play into it too. Would we move to a back four if we moved on from Orishano and brought in a U22 winger, or are we going to bring in a U22 wing back? I mean, those are some questions I think that we're just not going to know until July.
Yeah. Jason, I feel like you're throwing me under the bus a little bit because I want to read my quote. In my preseason prediction, I had them finishing second. I said they may not start fast enough to make a push for the Supporters Shield, but they'll find their way to a second place finish in the East and make a run for the MLS Cup. By season's end, this Queen City squad could even have their second league MVP, you just said that, and their first Golden Boot. While I stand by, I think Denkey still could make a run for the Golden Boot. He puts two of those shots this last week, and he's right there in the league lead or chasing it, right? He still could do that. Here's my feeling right now mid-season. Have you ever heard a song, right, that just it never really kicks into the next gear? Like you're waiting for the beat to drop or you're waiting for the tempo to pick up and the song just kind of goes at a steady pace and you're like you get to the end and go, oh, that was boring. Like, where was the rest of that song? I missed it. That's what I feel like with this team, that they're just steady, plugging along, 1 goal wins, 1 goal losses, some draws, and we're waiting for them. This is what I was mentioning in that quote there, is I was waiting for this moment that things finally kicked in and this team started putting goals in the back of the net. They started looking exciting. We've seen flashes of it. But it's really not been what I thought it would be at this point in the season.
And I got to tell you, if that were to continue, I mean, if they would just keep etching out, 1-0 victories, 2-1, and at the end of the day, we make a deep run in the playoffs, okay. I just don't have confidence. And I know you've heard me say this and you're probably sick of hearing me say this. I just don't think that's sustainable.
Yeah.
I think you're right. This is Big Ten soccer. The guys on the postcast said it was a lot like Jim Tressel's Ohio State teams. This is the way we're playing is 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It is slog it out soccer. And it's working.
You guys are too young, by the way, but I started watching football, NFL football. The Green Bay Packers were dominant. Those guys just kind of, they went up the field, 2 yards, 3 yards, short passes. They scored when they ran out of field. Okay, we just score. And it was kind of actually boring to watch them, but they won championships.
Yeah. And maybe that's the team we're seeing. Maybe they're grinding it out and they're just doing what they can. And then maybe they just let loose in the playoffs. Maybe they let loose the second half of the season. Here's my fear, guys. I'm always a little pessimistic when FC Cincinnati comes off of a break. I feel like they always look flat, like they're not ready to, they're not sharp for the game that they're about to play.
Yep.
We saw that this week after 10 days or 14 days off or whatever it was. There's another 10-day break until they play again. So any chance of this match right here, as slow as it was, building any momentum for the next match is gone, I think, in this 10-day lull. So we're going to see
playing a lowly team, by the way. We know what happens with this team when we play lowly teams.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. Guys, it's 10 o'clock. We were going to talk about some other soccer that was happening in the Queen City with Bayern with a 10-0 win over Auckland City FC. I don't know how many people.
Munich.
What's that?
Our sister city.
Our
Munich,
sister
Germany.
city. That's
Sister
right.
City. That's right. Yeah,
there's
that's
a game happening Wednesday night. Pachuca's playing at TQL, I believe, right? Wednesday night. We'll be there. I'll be there. Jason, I think you'll be there Saturday.
Yeah, I'll be there.
You'll be there as well.
Yeah.
So good, a lot of good soccer. I know Cincinnati's taking a little bit of break here. A lot of good soccer still happening in the Queen City. Get out and support. I don't know. I watched some of these matches, guys, and the attendance was really low. I don't know if it's ticket prices. I don't know if it's lack of marketing. Like, I've talked to some people around here in Fort Wayne, and they're like, "What's happening? What?" Like, I know there's no games in town here, but I was talking to a guy on my other podcast last night, and he was just like, I don't see anything about it. The only person I know that's talking about it is you. And so I don't know if it's a lack of marketing, but get out there. If you're listeners to the show, you know it's happening. Get out, watch some great soccer at TQL Stadium or some surrounding cities. Support what's happening. U.S. men's national team. We've been down in the gutter for 4 games, right? Come out with a 5-0 victory.
Moon Boy.
Trinidad.
Diego Luna.
What's that? Yeah,
the Moon Boy. Diego Luna. He is tearing it up.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, I want to go back real quick to Club World Cup. And yes, I was at the game. I mean, I won't go over the whole thing. Yes, it was a massacre. But guys, I got to tell you, watching Bayern Munich, one of the top teams in the world, play was just a joy. Yes, okay, they played a team that was, I mean, overmatched doesn't begin to describe what happened in the game. But
real estate agents, what else?
Yeah,
guys are doing, right?
Pharmaceutical
amateur team out there.
It's
playing.
an amateur team.
Yeah.
But you saw these guys play. I mean, the moment they kicked off, their lines went all the way up. It's like, that's how they play. And they didn't change from that. Their goalie at one point, I swear he was like 5 minutes in midfield. Yes, they were overmatched. The other team was overmatched. But you saw some really good plays from the Germans, of the German team. So, yes, go out there, please. You're going to see some great soccer. Plays that you won't see here, players, technique, skills that are rarely seen, quite frankly, at MLS. And if you like soccer, I would strongly recommend you try to catch it to game, whether it's here in Cincinnati or somewhere else where this tournament is going on.
Yeah. If you're there Wednesday night, just yell Jose's name. I'm sure he'll hear you. He'll come find you. I'd love to say hello. Jason and I will be looking for you on Saturday while we're there for the Dortmund game. Thanks for listening to this episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We will see you next time.